Hi, my name is Terra Auctioner,
And I'm BW Auctioner.
and we got married in August of 2018. We live in Torrington, Wyoming, and we are here today to share our testimonies of how we came to our faith and what our faith has meant to us through our lives and now through our marriage. We have a very unique opportunity because we were originally planning to share these testimonies that we've written out in front of the First Congregational Church in Torrington, led by Pastor Matt Gordon. But because of the coronavirus, we are kind of sequestered from our church right now. I'm sequestered from my students at school. So we have the opportunity, very nerve-wracking opportunity, to share our testimonies via webcast. So all that being said, I guess I'll go ahead and get started.
And we're also doing this to be able to become members of our church.
Right. So before I came to Jesus, I spent a lot of my youth questioning God. I was never in disbelief that he was there, but I just spent a lot of my time being angry with him and questioning why he did the things that he did. More specifically, my mom was diagnosed with a very rare form of ovarian cancer when I was 11 years old. I had to watch as the chemo took her hair and withered her down. I saw the heartbreak she went through when a few of her chemo friends succumbed to the nasty C word, and so I chose to be really, really angry. But as I got into high school, I found myself surrounded by friends who were very grounded in their faith, and they drugged me along with them. Oftentimes I was very resistant, but sometimes they physically drugged me along with them to a youth group on Wednesday nights through Christ Community Church in Greeley, Colorado. They'd invite me to come to church with them on Sundays as well. And week by week, my heart was genuinely softened. And those days became the ones that I was honestly most excited for. And by the time I turned 17, I was consistently attending church with my friends, and most importantly, I started going to church by myself a lot, and that was really hard at first because it took a lot of courage for me to go on my own, but I did a lot of searching and a lot of learning when I did that. I found myself coming alive and warming to the embrace of a God who accepted me joyfully. He accepted me joyfully despite the fact that I'd been angry at him. I'd said some nasty things. I'd been in disbelief, and I had strayed away from the blessings that he had truly given me in my life. And one of those major blessings was my mom's health. And so I really started coming to terms with that and just kind of becoming the person I think I was meant to be. So in the spring of my senior year of high school, I was at church on Baptism Sunday by myself, and our pastor prayed and asked that anyone feeling compelled to rededicate themselves to Christ would be able to come out to the lobby. And before I had a second thought, I was up walking down the aisle, and my feet carried me and my heart carried me. I rededicated my life to Christ that day without any fear. And as I stepped out of the water, I truly believe that I came out of the darkness and started going towards the light. Since then, I've been trying to make up for a lot of lost time by studying the Word. I've been more open to God's paths and plans for me. And for anyone that knows me, I'm extremely type A. I'm a huge planner, and I've always been really bothered when I don't have control. Well, when I came to my faith, I realized that I don't have to have that pressure of always having to be in control, because I wasn't meant to bear the weight of all these decisions and all these paths. And that's the purpose for God in my life, is it's for me to walk down his path for me. And that's allowed me to be involved in youth ministries in Fort Collins while I was in college at CSU. And it gave me the courage to pursue missions with my church in Haiti. It opened my eyes to my desire to become a teacher, and it led me into a marriage unlike anything I'd ever imagined. Together, BW and I pray daily. We are in the Bible together daily and constantly push each other to be faithful stewards of God's teachings. And one thing that I've learned is that I don't have to be perfect. Because just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that I have an excuse to go and do bad things and say, oops, forgive me, God. No, but I have the reassurance that because I am human, because I make mistakes, that we have a God that loves us so selflessly and so unconditionally that I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm forgiven. I know that because I believe that Jesus came and died for me, that I am saved. So I originally came to First Congregational Church in Torrington when BW and I started dating about 5 years ago. It was back to school Sunday, and Pastor Matt made me come up to the front and speak on the microphone. And for anyone who hasn't been to our church before, Pastor Matt takes a great amount of joy in embarrassing me a lot. So if I walk into church a little bit late, he always makes a point to have me come to the front or do something silly. But so that was from day one. Pastor Matt took some joy in embarrassing the new kid, but that's okay, and that's why we love him.
And the best part of that was that we warned her before that first time at church that there was a chance that he would call her up, and then we saw back to school Sunday. We were like, well, it's going to happen.
Yep.
It was a good time.
And even though I was embarrassed, I felt really welcomed by so many people who genuinely took an interest in my life, and that's just continued to grow. And so I've come before my church family and whoever else might be watching this to ask that I could become an official member of the First Congregational Church. I'm ready to settle into my first true church home. I've never had one of those. I've been wandering for quite a while now, and I'm ready to settle in. I adore everybody at this church, and I look forward to catching up and worshiping with them every single Sunday. I love that at the First Congregational Church we pray for and with each other with intention all the time. I love that this church welcomes any and everyone. You all at First Congregational Church have become the church family I have been seeking. And when I think about where I want BW and I's future children to grow and build their faith, I see every single one of you. I see Pastor Matt, and I see this church. So that's my story, and I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to share that, and I'm just really thankful that I've gotten to share that with BW.
So, with these sheets, we had 5 or 6 little tabs to fill out, and so I'll kind of be going through those. Excuse me. In that form, Terra kind of wrote hers all as a story, which you can tell that she's an English teacher by how good she is at planning with that. So the first bullet question was pre-salvation history. What was my life like before I came to Jesus? And I was very fortunate in the fact that I grew up in a church, and I never really knew life without being a Christian and going to church and being in the Bible. My mom was very, very stringent on us going to Sunday school every Sunday, or as many Sundays as we could. So, we're always at Sunday school, always at church, and it was a really good way for me to learn all those Bible stories. And a lot of the more detailed stuff didn't get into when you were young, but you got to hit a lot of the big stories. All the things about Jesus, and then things like Samson and Moses, and a lot of those other neat things. And so, I really enjoyed that, but then over time, just kind of forgot a lot of those stories and didn't really think about them as much as I should. And that changed once I started dating Terra, and I'll kind of delve into that a little more later. The second question we had was born again, and how do I know I'm going to heaven? And the biggest thing from there was when I was a little kid, I was very scared of dying, and I was very scared of death. I didn't understand the concept of you just kind of being gone and passing away, and I had a lot of issues with that when I was a little kid, being very afraid of that. And the only way that I was able to get through that was through my faith and getting to know Jesus. And once I knew what was kind of on the other side, a lot of those fears went away, and I got very comfortable in that. And I mean, now I know. I mean, once I pass away, once Terra passes away, once our friends and family pass away, I mean, we know where they're going, and I mean that really settles your heart and makes you feel comfortable about what will happen in your life. And so the third one, being baptized. How was I committed to follow Christ, and had put me, or put on me, or me in the water. And I mean, I don't know when I was baptized. I was obviously baptized when I was very young, when I was probably 1 or 2 years old, by my parents. But there were many opportunities that I had to kind of rekindle kind of that spirit and that faith, that growing that faith from being in confirmation classes, going to youth group a lot, and then went on a couple small mission trips to Louisville, Kentucky, and Calais, Maine, and then also went to the Presbyterian Youth Triennium at Purdue when I was in high school. And there were several times through all that where, I mean, I felt my faith grow mainly just by getting goosebumps, kind of getting that sensation, knowing that something big is happening. And I always really enjoyed when that happened. Kind of felt like something big was going on. So the next question is post-salvation history. What has my life been like since I met Jesus? And I mean, the biggest thing I'll talk about here is mainly how my faith and my Christian journey changed once I met Terra, once we started dating. And I mean, it was really neat. I came into her life and she came into mine when she was going through a big change, when she was really delving into her faith journey and her relationship with God. And so, I mean, she was very upfront about wanting to be very involved in the Bible, trying to work and learn as much as possible. And I remember several times where she felt like we just kind of hit a block in the road, or kind of slowed down, didn't know why. It didn't seem like she was getting revelations constantly through her faith. And I had to tell her, I said, you've come so far so quickly. I mean, there's not a whole bunch of hurdles to always cross. I mean, some points it'll be pretty smooth. And I mean, the learning will be slower. You'll still obviously learn, but I mean, we really started going in the Bible more, kind of going through a few chapters here and there in the Bible, reading little passages at night. And it was a long distance relationship, so we'd usually tell each other which chapters of the Bible we should read, or else read to each other little snippets. And then in 2018, my sister Katie actually suggested we do a Bible in 1 year challenge for New Year's resolution. That's the only time I've ever done a New Year's resolution, and was skeptical about it at first because it just seemed like a lot of reading. And I mean, Tara pushed me pretty hard to do it, and I finally caved in. And that's one of the things I've appreciated most of what I've done in my life, is reading through the Bible, because I always told myself I would, and just seems like something easy to put off. But if you haven't done so, I mean, it's wonderful to read through it. And 1 year is a good time frame for it, because it is a lot of reading. Sometimes the Old Testament gets pretty dry and very monotonous, but there's a lot of wonderful stories in there, a lot of wonderful things to learn about.
And one thing we realize is it's just a commitment to making the time. And there's always time for the Bible. Mm-hmm. That should be the biggest priority in your day, whether you start your day with it or like we like to end our day with it, but there's always time. And it's great because that first time we read it through in its entirety, it became less, I hate to say that it was tedious, but it was kind of tedious at the beginning. But as we started getting into it and we started seeing how the Old Testament and the New Testament, why they were both so relevant, how they work together and the purpose of them, it became a habit. And quite frankly, I would feel unfulfilled if for some reason one night I was like, oh, I'll just maybe do my reading tomorrow, and I would feel compelled in that urge and the drive to need to read it no matter what time it was.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it gives you a chance to happen upon things in the Bible you wouldn't usually read about because they're not as popular and not as known. And one of the things I found was Ecclesiastes. I mean, it's been a while since I read it. Terra and I are going through the Bible again this year, and so we'll probably hit Ecclesiastes probably in the summertime, late summer. And I mean, it's a short chapter, but there's a lot of really neat things in it, and I really enjoyed that. And if you've never read Ecclesiastes, I would highly recommend it. It's a neat one. Okay. So when we first came to our church was when we actually left our previous church we'd gone to for a long time with my family in 2012, and it was tough leaving. We were wanting to switch things up, and I mean, like I said, it was tough leaving, but it felt really good coming into a new church and being very quickly embraced. I mean, everyone just treated us so well, and it felt like home really quickly. And the reason I'm wanting to become a member along with Terra is just to kind of show everybody and to show ourselves that we're here for the long haul, and we're here to become further engaged within the church and be further involved, and just to have these people even more as a part of our lives. And I mean, it just, a lot of it is credit for Matt, Pastor Matt, because of how good of a job he does and how engaging he is, how heartfelt he makes things. And I mean, to show you how much we think of him, he was our pastor in our wedding. So,
And for me, I'd never had a pastor who knew me by name. I'd always been to very large churches. But I'm fortunate that I also get to work with my pastor. He's the goofiest science teacher you'll ever meet, but kids love him. And one thing that I've taken from Matt is that he always tells people that he loves them, and it's not just something he says, it's something that he means. And that's the biggest thing I think about being a Christian, aside from accepting that Jesus came and died for us, is that we love people. Christians love people, and I love my church. I love our pastor, and I just am so thankful that my story led me to where I am.
well, thank you all for viewing this, and hope you, I mean, whether we're meant to inspire or just to inform, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and we look forward to seeing everybody in our church as members of the church.
Or who knows, maybe we just gave you something that helped lull you to sleep. I don't know. But for what it's worth, thank you. If you made it this far, thank you for listening.
And God bless.
God bless.